right, here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stein is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology. What does a Navicular Syndrome mean? And
Navicular Syndrome.
Navicular Syndrome mean? And also another chapter out of Tony Gonzalez's book, This is Jim's Story, and also radiographs for the farrier. All this and much more we discuss here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. And over to my far right side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Can you move that microphone in front of your face so you're not talking over it?
Hello.
There, perfect.
Is that better?
You look good. You sound good.
You just want to block my face out because you don't want to look at it.
I do want to look at you. So, speaking of looking at, when you pulled up in the driveway this morning, normally you have like 50 eyes looking at you when you come down the driveway. Feathery friends. You didn't see any this morning, did you?
I did not.
So I have, the battle I've been having with this fox that's been running around our property grabbing our chickens.
Right.
So this past weekend, we put up a nice wire fence, 2,000 square foot area. It's a big area. And we've got them all fenced in now, and it's that 2-inch by 4-inch wire mesh fence, and you put the T-post in the ground, and you go all the way around it, and we're using, the back corner of the hay shed to use as one side of, to save on space and stuff and save on fencing to kind of block them all in. So now they're all locked up in their little chicken area there. Big, but it's big. I mean, it's still a large area.
Right.
And what we've been doing is, because we have horses here, my wife, everyone's got a poop pile. If you got horses, you got a poop pile somewhere, right?
Right.
And we'll let that sit there for a little bit, and then I'll go out there and take the tractor, and I'll get a nice big hot steamy pile of horse stuff, and I'll go over to the chicken coop, and I'll dump it into the chicken coop area.
Are you trying to bury them in poop?
No. What they'll do is they'll go through and pick through it and get all the little buggies and stuff out of it, and hopefully that'll cut down on some of the fly issues that you would have on a property like this.
So you feed your chickens poop?
No, I feed them the worms and the bugs inside the poop.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But they
I
are.
haven't been around chickens. I don't know what they actually. Yeah, we had chickens when I was a kid. They will eat anything.
Yeah, and it's the bestest, richest eggs, if that's a term that I can use for.
There's a reason they call them yard buzzards.
Right. That's exactly what they are. Now, while you were over here on Saturday, you were shoeing Dominique, not shoeing. I'm sorry, you were trimming because
Shoe.
now she's raw feet. What is it called? Barefoot.
I hope her feet aren't raw.
No,
Barefoot.
So she's barefoot now because she's not getting the actual workout ethic that she was getting before because of, things that have been going on with her. And there's nothing bad wrong with her. It's just that she can't excel in the position that we want her to do. So no need to have these shoes on her.
Right.
And so
we're not trying to push and work around the mechanical issues that we're dealing with.
So this is the second time of you coming out here and taking care of her feet since she's had the shoes off. Is this correct? So how is she looking now?
She looks magnificent.
No, don't say that to me just because I'm in the room. Honestly say, hey, look, this is what's going on.
She's got a pretty solid foot on her anyway. And she handles it just fine. There you get a little breakage around the nail holes. When I pulled the shoes, I left as much foot on her as I could. So, the idea of let's make them sore to fix their feet, I don't think that's a good idea. That's a little bit rude, So I would rather leave a little foot and then give them a chance to start developing a little callus and leave enough mass between the coffin bone and the ground that we're not hurting.
And she's doing well in that form.
Yeah. She's got the pony to boss around, or the pony bosses her around, right?
No,
whichever.
She herds that pony around.
Well, good. Somebody needs to herd that pony. The pony herds you.
Yes, the pony she's a little snip. That's Cayenne out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while you were here, Mike, I was sitting there, and I don't know how the thought came into my head, I said to you, I said, Mike, you know, we've been taught all our lives that the Spanish brought horses over here in the discovery of the New World.
Right.
And I was like, well, why were they not here in the first place? But they're over in, you know, Spain and all that stuff. How come they ended up over there and not over here? And why did they, I guess, why weren't they here at all? And your answer was to me, and you got this big old long, and for a second there, I thought I was in school. So tell me the answer that you told me, if you can remember the answer. Why weren't there any horses here in the discovery of the New World, and the Spaniards, when they were coming over here, had to bring horses here?
Because the people didn't pay their board on their horses. And wait a minute.
No, way further back.
Further back. Well, as I understand it, some of the very first horse fossils furthest back in time were probably found in Wyoming. Cowboy country, amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
So they had cowboys in Wyoming thousands of years ago. Actually, they had horses in Wyoming thousands of years ago. And the shape of the mountain ranges on in this continent funneled the ice age right down through the middle of them. And because, you know, there wasn't a big mountain range to stop the ice from pushing further south, right?
Okay.
And it got too cold. There were horses that had crossed land bridges when the continents were closer together, I guess. We'll go with that one.
Now, you were saying that the mountains in the United States run north and south, and the mountain ranges over...
Some of the other mountain ranges blocked some of the ice.
Okay.
And left areas where where it was a little easier to live. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the Spanish, when they were, you know,
so
discovering the world, they brought horses with them, and, you know, they ended up on the continent, you know, up through Mexico or wherever they landed, and they brought them here. At that time, you definitely needed them, so they bred. Plains Indians ended up with horses, and they've found fossil remains at this point that they say back before the West was being settled, where some of those back 1600 or whatever, where the horses were probably eating maize or corn. So that's been here before this started even thinking about becoming a country.
So the lovely producer of our show sent me this email based on the question that I asked you, and this is from the Wikipedia page, saying that fossils of the earliest direct ancestors of the modern horse have been found in the Eocene layers of North America strata, mainly in the Wind River Basin in Wyoming.
I've been in the Wind River Basin, seriously.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
Is it nice this time of year?
It probably was this time of year. It wasn't in December, January. Actually, it was not bad then either.
I continue, and it says, wild genius equus, which is a member of the horse, originally evolved in North America. These horses' relatives became extinct on the continent about 8,000 to 12,000 years ago. In 1493, Christopher Columbus set second voyage to the Americas, brought Spanish horses, and then they were brought back to North America, first through the Virgin Islands and so on and so forth. But you were saying something about the land bridge. There was a big land bridge or something that was connecting everything together, and they made their way across the land bridge, and then the land bridge dissipated, and and
that's a theory. You know, I don't know the facts of it. They're talking about how people migrated across the land bridge, and during the time when the ice was forming, and you ended up with the indigenous people in here,
right?
And how people moved with horses, they figure moved back the other way.
I just think it was funny. I was sitting there watching you do the horses, and I'm like going, I remember in school that they taught us that horses were none at all here in North America, and the Spaniards brought them over, and that's the first time horses were here. I mean, the horses that we know
modern
today,
horses.
Yeah, modern horses, I guess is, but they leave that out when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, and you're like going, really, that's so neat. But now that we learn, and I mean, you could, however you want to decipher that information,
right?
Are they holding it back from us, Mike, for some reason?
Is it a conspiracy?
It's a conspiracy. All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot more conspiracies to talk about here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. And don't forget, if you have a question for Mike Stein, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Fill that out. And make sure you put a return address, and we'll send you out some prize packs to your address just for being part of the show. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. Got that?
Yes.
I am going to switch your camera just a little bit because your mic here just a little bit. Now you can lean into that a little bit more.
Hello.
Or move forward or however you want to do it. There you go.
Is that better?
That's better. All right. That good.
Works.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just annoying when you hear pick up your laundry, wash the dishes.
Yes.
So you've heard that before, huh?
Never.
All right. Talking terminology. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well, and you can see me waving a mic. I fixed his mic in front of Mike, so you can see him a little bit better. That's Mike Stein over there. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah?
Practicing my wave.
Yeah. Turning unscrewing
light bulb, yeah.
Yep, unscrewing light bulbs. And
unscrewing them, whatever you do with light bulbs.
and make sure you go over to YouTube and like and subscribe over there. And this just gives you actual avenue, another venue where you can see the stuff, all the visuals that go on here during the podcast. And Mike's going to be drawing here on the counter here. He's going to show us about.
I wish you'd just let me draw on the counter and not give me paper.
Were you the kid that drew on the walls with crayons?
Why, yes.
Okay. That's why I gave you a piece of paper and a pen, so you're not drawing on my walls.
They're not my walls. I'm okay with that.
And now we're going to talk about talking terminology. This section of the podcast is basically to help you learn new vernacular words while you're in the barn.
Navicular words or navicular words?
Navicular.
Navicular.
I
learned something today.
Yes, we all will, if you let me get through this segment. So when you're in the barn, I think we're spiraling here. When you're in the barn or you're with the vet and he throws out these big fancy words, hopefully you can say that you heard it here on Equine Dynamics, and I'll help you learn exactly what these words are. So this week we are going to talk about the
Navicular
Syndrome. All right. So tell us, Mike, everything that we need to know about the Navicular Syndrome.
I've heard people, navicular disease, navicular syndrome. There's a difference. At this point, I don't know. The navicular bone itself is in the back of the coffin joint.
Now, don't forget, you can see this on the podcast video. If you go over to YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe over there. You can see this. Mike has got a huge horse leg here, the lower half, and he's showing it on the camera here.
You're interrupting me again.
Sorry.
The navicular bone is in the back of the coffin joint. You've got the short pastern, you've got the navicular bone, and you've got the coffin bone, which is inside the hoof capsule, which pretty well dictates the shape of the hoof capsule. The flexor tendon comes down and goes over it and connects into the bottom of the coffin bone. You've got a series of ligaments attached. You got collateral ligaments, you got your impar ligament, but there's a whole bunch of ligaments through here. It's a very busy place. Lateral cartilages, your digital cushion. There's a lot going on back here in the hoof. And I probably should quit blocking the camera.
No, you're all right.
So that's where the navicular bone is. What happens is basically you get pain in the back part of the horse's hoof. If you've got too much impact, if you've got damage to circulation, if you've got a lot of mechanical strain there, the bones are always remodeling. Always. Stress, de-stress. But if the bone cannot repair itself at the speed that it is being broken down, you can end up with pits and holes and what all in the bone itself. Ragged edges. But there's, it can be tendonitis, bursitis, a lot involved back here that can create pain. So, I mean, as a farrier in the field, and all states' rules are different, but if I was to run hoof testers on a horse, all I can say is the horse is sore in the back of the foot, caudal heel pain.
Now, is it
As far as isolate it to exactly what, you need to go a lot further.
Now, is it kind of the equivalent of a way a human? You ever had plantar fasciitis?
That can be, yes.
Where the heel strap of a human foot and connects to the front, that it doesn't want to flex or bend. It kind of stays tight, and you have this constant pain in the bottom of your foot.
Right. It can be just that. It can be the bone itself breaks down. I guess true navicular syndrome would probably be degeneration of the navicular bone. But as far as pain in that area, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different things it can be.
Treating
Is that any kind of an answer?
Yes. Now, treating it, how to prevent it, and what to look for.
Short stride. Horses, stride shortening up. They don't want to move as freely as they used to. Some horses will get painful enough they don't want their front feet on the ground when you're trying to ride them. Some of them will get to the point they might want to buck you off or rear up, or, hey, this hurts too bad, we got to do something with it, right?
Now, this isn't like happen overnight. This is a progression of
time. It's a progression,
okay.
Yes. And so many times when a horse starts doing that, I don't know why this horse's attitude's gotten bad. Pain can create a lot of attitude in a horse. Happy horses, comfortable horses are happy horses.
Now, is this something that where you have to concentrate and go, okay, something's wrong with the foot? Is this something that will show up on like an x-ray or something like that?
Yes, it is. And, I've heard people say that the only horses that ever get this are shod horses, because some people are just dead set against shoeing a horse, period. Truth is, I have worked on mares that were brood mares their whole lives, who've never worn a shoe in their life and have not supported a rider in their lives that have come up with this type of issue. We don't notice it because we're not asking them to do stuff. Certain breeds, your quarter horses, are much more prone to it. Quarter horse, paint horse, any of that type horse is more prone to it than you might be seeing a warm blood. They always think about it being a front foot problem. I have treated horses that had navicular issues in the back end.
Now, how do you prevent this?
Or worked with horses. Prevent it. Well, the easiest way to prevent it is, don't own a horse.
Right.
That prevents a lot.
Cross that one off.
Cross that one off. You're in trouble.
But I mean,
good farrier vet care. If you're tying up the shoulders with a saddle and locking the rotation of the shoulders, you shorten up the stride, create more impact.
Is this something that you as a farrier could see before, hey, look, your horse is starting to get this navicular syndrome. Navicular.
Navicular syndrome.
Navicular syndrome. Hey, you might want to be careful, because I notice when I'm pulling on the horse's foot and you're doing, the trimming and shaving and stuff, I can feel just on this foot here that the horse is pulling back. Can you sense that?
You may notice a bit in a turn more. You may notice horses slow down. Horses are more tentative about terrain changes. Horses, sometimes, if you watch them in a stall in deep bedding, you'll see a horse sometimes that will stand on the edge of a mat with their toe down, because raising that angle gets some pressure off the flexor tendon, right? And that could be multiple things. That could be navicular. It could be anything involving in the flexor tendon pressure.
Now, can you feel like, I know sometimes my wife will go out there and she'll put her hand on a hoof now and then that she thinks it's bothering the horse. Is it a heat thing? Can you feel heat with that, or no, you can't sense it?
That's not something where you're probably going to feel any heat. There are horses that treat as navicular type horses, and you need your vet involved, and you need your vet to take a good series of x-rays, and sometimes multiple angles and sometimes multiple positions to where we can see what's going on with the bone itself. There are horses that have been as hard to, but ultrasounded for problems in that area. In fact, last couple of weeks ago in Kentucky, I worked on one where the ultrasound showed there were adhesions between that flexor tendon and the navicular bursa. So that's there you goes another angle at a problem in the back of the foot, right?
Right.
Now, with me going to the barn, can I say that's what's going on? Not a clue. I can say your horse is painful in the back of the foot, but short-strided, tender-footed, going in terrain where you're changing alignment and angles. Horses sometimes don't like that. So if you all of a sudden you hit a hard climb hill up your first step in, it pops that toe up and puts pressure on that flexor tendon, and that puts more strain into that navicular bursa area for a step or two. They might not like that. So
curable, not preventative, but curable. How to address it? Is it an end of career? I always worry about that because every time I hear something wrong with the foot, end of career. That's it. The horse is gone.
No, there are horses out there. I had a horse some years ago that was a warm blood dressage horse. Went up for sale. I'd been working on her for a while. When they took cell X-rays, there was a cyst in the navicular bone. I'll take dumb luck any day of the week. We'd never had her lame. She had a dressage career. Woman put her up for sale for a couple of times. Couldn't sell her. They took X-rays. There was a cyst the size of a pencil eraser in the navicular bone. She was retired not because of navicular issues. She had some other issues going on, and she was retired. Mm-hmm. But she was on older in life. We really, and I'd like to claim because I was the farrier, but good farriers make a huge difference. If mechanics are not where they should be, they're going to feel it. And some of them are going to be much more painful than others. Some of them are not going to show you much. Like this mare, she never really showed us much with that until the cell X-rays were made.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Tony Gonzalez's book, The Proper Balance Movement, and we're going to talk about a horse by the name of Jim. Is it Jim's the name of the horse, or is this?
We'll go with Jim.
Okay, so this is Jim's story. We're going to get into that when we come back. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. Yeah, go ahead.
If this stretches too long, do we need to carry this over to the next week?
Unless you're going to talk about it on towards the end of the radiograph.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about the radiographs in general. If this thing with the navicular thing stretches out too long, which it could easily, maybe we take this to next week as far as the whole thing about shooting radiographs for a farrier.
Well, we're going to talk about Tony Gonzalez.
Right.
And then however long that takes.
Yeah. We'll just see how time is at that point.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. If you'd like Mike Stein to perform a clinic out at your location, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics, and he can come out to your event or your location, and he's got a lot of visuals out there. As you can see, one of his visuals that he has here in the studio is this bottom quarter part of a horse's leg. It's a skeleton, and you can see all the navicular bone. Am I saying that right, Mike?
Navicular. That's the way I say it. Hopefully it's sort of right,
And he's also got other different things to show up at your location with a whole bunch of information. And all you have to do is fill out that little form there, and he'll schedule you in, pencil you in, get you all set up. And while you're over there, get yourself something for free. Fill out the contacts form, put a question in there or any kind of statement. We'll read it here on the air, and we'll send you out a free prize pack as well. And over to my far right side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I am spectacular, incredible.
Now, you're drawing pictures over there, Mike. What are you drawing over there?
Stick horses.
Why has that one got wings?
Sometimes they fly.
So we're going to read right now another chapter or another session out of Proper Balance of Movement, A Diary of Lameness by Tony Gonzalez. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Just skim through. We'll get the gist of it.
So this chapter is called Jim's Story, and I'll start off just give you a little outline. It's not hard to be sympathetic when listening to a really sad story. One came by the phone the other day at a church organization. A woman counselor of the church was polite, and she asked me if I knew anyone interested in buying chestnut gelding that she had purchased as a companion with another horse, like a babysitter. When I asked her how much she wanted for the horse, she responded $300. Now, this horse ended up being, is this where Jim's story takes off? And
right.
tell us about Jim's story.
Okay. From what I understand, they had gone out to look at a horse. Moses and Tony went out and decided to buy the horse because, they wanted to prove a point or learn something or whatever, however you may take it at that point, but thought they could get the horse happier. And I think as the story goes, Jim was at a church camp. And so he pushed his brother and said, "You're buying the horse." And they did get the horse going much happier. Probably was not going to take a big jumping career or anything like that, but nice little easy trail riding horse. And
now what was wrong with the horse? This is the reason
we were talking about the Navicular Syndrome.
Oh, it all matches together now.
Yes. Our staff that runs the show decided that was the best way to go with this.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
So anyway, Moses bought the horse. They worked with the horse. They got the horse happier. And then as the story went, there was an old friend from the school days that was watching the situation that was interested. Wasn't much of a rider. Wanted a nice, quiet little horse to ease around on trails quietly. So then the horse was sold, and the horse had a happy life doing that after some of the mechanical stress was taken off of that area.
So why were you drawing these pictures? Does this have to deal with the story?
This has to do with the story, and this opens up a huge can of worms.
Okay, and I'm going to switch.
Your chickens would like it.
I'm going to switch over to camera 3, and you guys can see this in real time as we're talking about it here in the studio. Just go over to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. You can see this video as well. So here we go. What is that? It looks like the letter D and a stick.
It's a D and a stick horse.
Okay.
And we'll put some ears on the horse and. How's that? Is that better?
I guess.
Okay. When you're working with a navicular horse, one of the things years ago, you go back, put a bar shoe on them, right?
Yes.
And then we got to decide, as Jack Miller used to say, a farrier can only do two things: reduce leverage and provide support. Okay. We used to put bar shoes on them. Some people still do.
And the reason why you put bar shoes on them?
Well, the reason is when your pastern recoils, if there's more support there, the pastern doesn't drop as hard, because the thought is if the pastern is collapsing hard, it's hitting pressure against the flexor tendon that's coming across the navicular bursa.
The way I think about it is if you have a queen bed and you put the support, the bars across the bottom of the bed to keep the bed from sinking off of you only put it like one towards your head. And one towards your feet, and you don't put the one in the middle. So the bottom and it sags. So is that the same effect?
Let's go with that. So the pastern drops. When it does, it hits that flexor tendon. Flexor tendon tightens up across the navicular bursa. Also, so if you put a bar shoe on there and you run it out, well, yes, you're holding the pastern up. Well, if that's not enough, well, let's add a wedge in there. Problem there is we hadn't necessarily done anything to reduce leverage. Internally, the coffin bone in time, we got to fix. It's doing good. It's happy. It's this, that, and other thing. What I've run into many years ago was that in time you come back and shoot your x-rays, and all of a sudden your coffin bone is going to more of a negative angle because support becomes leverage against the back of the foot. If the foot's not stable enough to handle it, then it's okay. We can put some support in the back of the foot. Can a navicular handle support in the back of the foot? A few can, a lot can't. And that's all we can do. Well, then we start looking at breakover. Well, if we reduce breakover, we reduce leverage against the joint. At this point, my whole thing with navicular horses has changed quite a bit. And after I worked with Tony, and what I learned from them, it became more and more apparent. And I have done this. A prove a point thing, right?
Right.
I had a customer that trusted me enough, which wonder why, right?
I trust you, Mike.
Okay. Yes. But, if you start checking the SI lower back, a lot of those horses are sore. We're doing all this stuff to get the weight off the front of the horse, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If they're sore back here and the hind end is not working correctly, you change the angle, you change pressure. Pressure doesn't disappear. If the shoulder is locked, if your saddle is trapping the scapula, if you cannot get the scapula moving, the pressure's still there. There's still downforce. We change where it goes. It comes off the flexor tendon. It goes in extensors. We load it onto our suspensories, whatever it may be. But the pressure doesn't just disappear. Okay. What if we could get the pressures to magically come off the front of the horse?
So how do you do that?
Hot air balloons in a sling.
I was going to say those spongy shoes that everyone walks around on, the memory foam.
Right. Yeah, and that has been, shock absorbers have been used. But, during the years of working with Ray Morris, people need to check when the foot extends forward you knock the water bottle over.
That's why we put caps on them.
The rotation of the shoulder is actually down in this area, right? Can you see that?
Yes.
Down below the shoulder joint. So this rotates back. Okay. If that is not moving to a full range, and you can also pick your leg up at a 90, support the knee, push this back, pull it forward. Are you getting much range? Check both sides. That's a way you can do a quick check. Run your hand down, check your lower back. Okay. The more this starts to move, this pressure will ease up. If this is not coming over and picking the horse up off the ground, lifting the back, you still got all that downforce. Is your horse built downhill or uphill? Different thing. Or is your saddle trapping the scapula? If it is, your limited movement of the scapula, well, you're creating impact and downforce because the horse has to reach out forward and have the scapula moving, and then you got the muscle sling can be a big shock absorber in the body, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If that's locked up, you're driving the back down, hind end can't come through. But what I had done in this one particular situation, and it was kind of a crazy story because woman bought the horse, was using it for lessons. Horse had really solid feet on her, but she showed up after she bought the horse. We got some problems. Vet came out, took x-rays. We ran the whole gamut. Oh, we've got some navicular issues going on. Okay. Can we back off and take a little time with this mare? Because her back end was straight as a fence post. So in fact, if you ever look at my, I think, Sassy story on my page.
Yes.
I think that's up. But anyway, worked on supporting the back end, bringing the brake over back on the back end, working in a direction to get the back end flexing. The mare's front feet started, within a couple months, it's like, this doesn't hurt anymore. And she was being a riding lesson horse. So that in its own is not the easiest way to handle, on a horse, because you got unskilled riders on top, wobbling around, bouncing, this, that, and the other thing. We were definitely careful with the saddle and made sure the saddle was back far enough for the scapulas to move. And, we're running Western tack on the horse, so there wasn't, you can't adjust the tree on a Western saddle. And being a lesson horse, not a massive amount of money was spent. So she came sound. She did riding lessons for a few years. She was happy for several years. And down the road, the woman who owned the property decided, with some things happening, she needed to downsize. The mare was sold. She was very happy for a few years, but we had definitely concentrated on making sure that back end was working. Down the road, the mare comes up with problems. Somebody came back on her. You sold us a horse with problems. The deal was the vet who checked the horse out for the pre-purchase, if they'd have shot x-rays, I don't remember if they did or didn't. And I don't remember if it was soft tissue pain versus breakdown of the navicular bone. But she went through the vet test, check, okay. And there became a big hoopla over that because, the owner's like, well, this vet says the horse is navicular. 6 months later, then I bought the horse. You vet checked my horse and you passed it. She wasn't hurting at that time. I don't know if they just ran hoof testers. I don't know if they did x-rays. I don't know what was done. But at this point, it was happy. When she went to the other place, they're like, why have we got shoes on her back end? And they pulled them. And in a few months, she's back loading the front end. I don't know. Something to think about, right?
Mike, you lost me at Navicular.
But, I mean, dealing with rocker formats, dealing with Doc Reddens, I worked on navicular horses out at his clinic. Like I said, we had one that had the flexor tendon was adhering to the navicular bone itself, and we went more to a rocker rail format. And we've got video of the horse going down the barn, trotting down the barn, not 100%, but much happier than it was a couple hours earlier.
All right, guys.
A lot has changed there.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, one more little segment, and we'll look at you get back to enjoying your pony. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. Sorry, Mike. I was dealing with technical issues over here again.
I was causing technical issues.
No. It's this. The new update is not allowing the audio section to behave, and so I'm trying to fix it in real time as we're sitting here talking. So I'm sorry if I wasn't paying attention.
You don't have to pay attention. I never expect you to pay attention. I don't expect me to pay attention.
The video's recording just fine, so all I have to do is just steal the audio from this, which is no big deal.
Okay.
We're at 42 minutes now.
Right.
And we have the radiographs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a long segment, or is that a
To do it justice, it needs to be a bit of a long segment.
Okay, so I'll just say, we're running long on the show today, and
because we're going to end up way outside the time window if I do this complete justice.
Okay, so we'll do that next week. So
right.
We'll catch up on next week on that. Okay.
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Make sure you follow him on YouTube. The way you do that is go to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stein, and don't forget he's got a new Facebook page out there. You've been posting a bunch of stuff on your new Facebook page. I've seen it, Mike.
I have a new Facebook page?
No. Well, whoever's in charge of your Facebook page is posting a bunch of new stuff over there.
Right.
About you going out to Kentucky.
Yep.
See
Just
Dr.
posted a new, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, I was there.
And all you have to do is search Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. You can see a picture of him. He's standing out there in front of Brutus, his big white truck out there. That's the name of your truck, by the way. I call it Brutus because it sounds like a friggin' hog as it's coming down the driveway here. That big old diesel you got running. So make sure you go and like and subscribe to him over there as well. And you heard just speaking just a minute ago, that is Mike Stein over there. How are you?
I'm doing good. You remember my old truck, right?
The silver one.
The silver beast that's got 500,000 miles on it. It's electric. It's got a plug hanging out the front of the grill.
Oh, does it really?
Yes.
That's the silverback.
Wait a minute, that's a block heater. But anyway, yes.
So we were running a little bit long on this podcast here, so make sure you join us next week as well, because we're going to talk about and continue with radiographs for a farrier. Mike says he needs a little bit longer segment, and we don't want to keep you guys from your ponies. So we're just going to extend that to next week's show, so make sure you stick around and join us for that. So, but on this week's show, Mike, what did we learn?
We learned...
Talking terminology. We learned about the
Navicular Syndrome.
Navicular bone syndrome, a degenerative lameness of the heel area that can involve inflammedness of the navicular bone and associated structures. So what do we learn? How do we get it? How do we prevent it? And what to do with it?
Well, paying attention to your horse, making sure the shoulders are moving, making sure the hind end's moving, making sure we're not locking up and creating impact. Saddle placement makes a huge difference in it. Lower back pain makes a huge difference in it. So we want to make sure the scapula can move. We want to make sure the saddle is comfortable enough that the horse can lift and round, because if we're dropping them in the middle, we're creating a lot of impact on the front end.
And also another chapter, chapter 5, out of the Diary of Lameness, a Proper Balance Movement, a book written by Tony Gonzalez. And this one was Jim's story. And Jim's story was about a horse that a little old church lady wanted for her as a pastor.
Drove it to church on Sundays.
A little pastor buddy out there. So tell us the story about what we learned from Jim's story.
Well, Jim, we look back at the story of how some of how this happens and some of where these horses can go. And at the time that Tony and Moses and those guys were doing, the thoughts were different. These guys were looking at different angles. At that point, it's like, let's put a bar shoe on them. It used to be at one point, if you go back to Rooney, and I think that was 1961, there's a lot of things. Let's put a bar shoe on it. Bar shoe, but learning in time, and we shot a lot more radiographs, we learned sometimes what happens. I'm not going to say that the bar shoe does not work well for some horses, because it has. It's helped a lot of horses out. It's helped out tendon ligament problems. It's helped out with healing up suspensory problems. It's done a lot, but there's not one answer for everything. And start looking at mechanics of the horse and how much that plays a part in it, and how much we need to start thinking about what's going on up top. People say, well, it's got navicular. Why do you want to worry about the back end? Well, there's an old song with that thing. No, it's I'm trying to think of it. It's not I was drunk the day my mama got out of prison.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get the motor running. But with any horse performance issues, with horses that are uneven, with horses that are not moving evenly, looking at the back end of the horse and paying attention to what's going there makes a huge difference on what happens in the front end.
All right, guys, make sure you follow Mike Stein over on Facebook. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. Make sure you like and subscribe to him over on YouTube, and you can see all the visuals and stuff that we have here. You can see Mike's stick drawing of a horse over there, and make sure you like and subscribe over there. And if you'd like Mike to answer a question for Mike Stein, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says Contact Us. Fill out that little form, put a return address, and we'll send you out a prize pack as well. All right, guys, on behalf of Mike Stein over there,
thank you. Have a good day. Enjoy your horses, and let's do this again.
my name is Travis, saying see you next week. Think I figured it out.
Okay.
Did I figure it out?
I don't know.
Let me see something here. Hold on.
Do we have to do it again?
Good night, Ned.
Hello, my baby. No, I didn't figure it out. Yeah, we have to do the whole show again.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
The more I sit here and think about the X-ray fiasco, the more explaining I need to do.
Okay.
What screws up X-rays.
Okay.
So that's going to be a pretty hefty segment all unto its own.